Back in September 2020, we sold our house in the UK, then moved to Normandy in France, where we bought an ancient French farmhouse with various outbuildings, including an old barn, a small cottage with 2 woodlands, and 3.5 acres of pastured land in a beautiful national park area. Follow us on our journey as Budo and I renovate the farmhouse, manage our land, and take on many projects for you to enjoy. Let the fun begin. Hi folks, it's that time again, Caravan Corner. Hope you've all had a good week. We've had a very busy week, haven't we?
We have been very busy this week. We've been doing, well, I've been doing some stud work under a staircase and making a false roof, if you like, so we can put lights in there to light up the bottom of the staircase, but also build a cupboard in the side. Tracy's been working on the wall that I'm going to be putting some stud work on. And she's
just been doing some pointing
and
consolidating the stone, haven't I?
The stone, and just getting it zipped up. But I just want to say, last week we asked you about, what was your ideas of us, with Caravan Corner and how long we're making our videos, and they were just brilliant. Once again, all of you didn't let us down. Well,
I think every single comment that we had was to do with Caravan Corner. So we think we're going to keep that.
I'm definitely going to keep Caravan Corner. Even when we go in the house, we'll probably keep Caravan Corner.
Yes, we've had a special request for that, haven't we?
And I think people like the fact that we're sitting together, we're chatting to you, talking about what the next process is, what we're doing, and giving you a little heads up, the little things that are going on. We had a couple of scares this week. We had the big Labrador we've got. He went off on a little tangent and went miles away, walking up a road, down the middle of a road in the day, caught him, got him home. And then he done it again at night time later, a few days later, and there's us like with head torches on running around France shouting out for our dog, and I've got the dog whistle, and then we see him up the top of the road, didn't we, and he was like nearly got run over. Some lady, lovely French lady jumped out and rescued him, grabbed him. But so we've had that little bit of drama. So I've built them a little octagon outside. I'll show you it in another video. So they can be locked away now.
It looks like something, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but cage fighting. When you have that
we'd have the cage rage. But so we've been doing well. Tracy's this video predominantly is going to be about Tracy doing a craft for you guys to watch.
I've done a video on how to knit a shawl, well, how I knit the shawl, so I hope you will all enjoy it, and if you have any questions or any suggestions, just drop them in the comment. And also I've finished 2 other big projects, haven't I? 2 chair throws, one in mustard and one in vanilla, in like a bobble
I'll put
stick.
some pictures up on that as well.
You're going to see that as well. So probably in the future I'll do like a little small video on how I do a bobble stitch, and you never know, some of my...
Tracy's the knitting and crochet machine queen. So she's a queen of the pointing now, and queen of the knitting and crocheting. She even made this for me. This was made with a very rare animal's hair. I'll tell you about it in another video. But
well, we both got one of these, and I had
some nice little Celtic buttons on there for me, and a pin so I can pin it up, and that keeps me warm, shoulders, and beautiful.
I had some yarn left over, so I made my one, but I wear mine mostly in the evenings because it keeps you nice and warm and it's not itchy. But I've also knitted myself a headband, so you can't tell the difference, though, can you?
So what do you think? Shall we? Is that Caravan Corner done now?
I think that's it.
Well, folks, thank you very much for watching. and look forward to all your next comments, because we love reading them when we're laying in bed.
Yeah.
And speak to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Okay folks, this is my next project. Sort of give you a little heads up on this, where we start. So it's on the first floor staircase as you come up from the ground floor. So if I point up here, you can see under the staircase here there's a big space, so I'm going to put a full ceiling in here going right across to the main wall, and that I can put some lights into that to light up this dark area down the bottom, and that also will go over to here, to this wall here, and we're going to put, the wall's collapsed a little bit because there's a rotten oak beam there, so we're going to cut that out, consolidate all this. Tracy's going to do a bit of pointing there and tighten it all up. Then I'm going to build a stud wall over it. We're not actually going to point the whole lot, just going to fill in where it's loose. I'm going to put a stud wall, insulate it. That stud wall will come up to the bottom of the staircase. That will give some of the support up here, because this is a little bit rickety. This is an old staircase. It's nice, but it's old and it needs a little bit of repairing. So if I get that done first, then I can do all the repair work. And then that will give us a nice ceiling in here. And on the front of it, coming back, I'll put a doorway in here, and that creates a nice storage area, so we can put stuff away. And it's above our heads. We have a little step ladder. I'll have some little sort of thing like that, which folds away into a little concertina staircase ladder, and put it away, and then we can just get it out if we need to go up there to get things out, maybe linen or whatever, you know. And that's it for now. I'll just show you this down here, just quickly, before I go. So here is a little niche there. We're going to probably keep that open, put something in there, little statue or something, I don't know. And then look, this staircase, there's a few bits missing in this kites, so I've got to repair all that, rebuild it completely. But it's safe enough for us to walk up and down. It's just I've supported underneath, but it still all needs working on it. And then right down the bottom, that'll need work as well. Anyway, I'll come back to you when I've put some woodwork up. So a little update, as you can see up there, I put the cabling in for the lights that come down here. They all terminate here, where there's going to be a light here. So there's a light upstairs, light here. Then I've ran a third cable through that floor and out through here. I'll just show you. So it comes up to here, and that's going to be the lights for under this cupboard I'm creating on the staircase above, you know, where you walk and that. And then I'm going to put some stud walls down here, so that's the ceiling going up there. And then over here, where Tracy's doing some pointing for me, or for us I should say.
Am I working for you all?
Yeah, you're working for me now. I'll be joking. So she's going to point all that up, make it, consolidate it, and then I'm going to build a stud work over that there, because we've got a ledge. If you can notice, there's a little ledge there. So we're going to build a stud wall, and that's going to go all the way up to the staircase and close it in, but it's also going to support the staircase on that edge because it's a little bit rickety. But I just thought I'd give you a little progress report before we get it closed up. You'll probably see that in another video now. Anyway,
Not sure, are we?
what's that, Trey?
Whether to point this?
The bottom part, yeah, it's down to you, isn't it? If you want to point it. But yeah, we'll talk about that in another video, I should think. Yeah.
I finished upstairs, didn't I? That's all done.
Yeah, you've done well up there. Oh, let's have a quick look up there then. Let people see what you've done. All right, going back upstairs again. Sorry, just a quickie. So Tracy, this trimmer I put in, she's closed it all in now. She's done all the pointing along here and tidied it up to the beam. So we're going to wire brush this beam, clean it up, and then oil it. And then above that, I'm going to have a little wall and close all this in with insulation, which is going to be about 8 inches or 200 millimeters deep up to that beam up there, and job done. Anyway, that's it for now, folks.
Hello, today I'm inside where it's nice and warm, and I'm going to share with you a project which I've done recently, and that's how to knit a garter stitch shawl with a curved edge. The yarn I'm using today is Stylecraft Special XL Super Chunky, and it's very soft and also 100% acrylic, which I think is ideal for if you're making shawls. It just feels nice when you're wearing it. It's much softer. The needles I'll be using are 12mm, and I know probably for a lot of people these actually look quite big, but for me they're actually quite small compared to what I do use. I'm actually using wooden needles because I think they're nicer. The stitches roll off the needles a lot nicer. And the shawl I'm going to be showing you is a knitted shawl with knit stitch, which means every row is knitted. So let's get started. So here's my ball of wool. Okay. How I cast on, and there's a lot of people will probably say there's all different ways to cast on. I use what we call a long tail thumb method, and we start this by doing a slip knot. So we just wrap the yarn over like you're going to make a bow. We get the tail end, we just put it through the hoop, and then we pull it. It's just as simple as that. And then we get our needle. Okay, and as you see, I'm not using 2 needles to cast on. I'm only using 1 needle. Now, what we do is we hold this yarn here and we get the tail end and we wrap it round our thumb. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the point of the needle, and it's like you're going to flick the stitch off. We're going to get this part, then we're going to wrap it round, pull it through, and that's your second stitch made. The pattern I'm doing calls for 5 stitches to be casted on. So we're going to go back again, wrap the thread around my thumb, put the needle through, wrap it around. This is your main yarn here. As you noticed, I'm using the tail end to cast on. So now we have 3 stitches. So I'll just carry on and knit a further 2 stitches. The pattern that I'm using is what we call garter stitch, and if you're new at knitting, it probably will be the first stitch that you will actually learn, and what that means is every row you will knit. So in the pattern it's asking us to cast on the 5 stitches, which we've done using the long tail thumb method. And then what we're going to do, we're going to turn. So the work now is facing me. You take your other needle, and then what we're going to do, we're going to cast off 2 stitches. Okay, and we cast off by knitting your first stitch, and obviously for people who haven't knitted before, you get your needle on the right hand and you put it through the side of the front of the stitch. Then you get your thread, you wrap it round between the 2 needles, pull it through, then flick it off. Okay, we're going to repeat this process. So your right hand needle, you put it through the side, wrap your thread around or your yarn, pull the needle back and then flick it off. Now we have 2 stitches on the right hand needle. So now what we have to do, we have to cast off 2 stitches. So we put our needle in the very first stitch, if you can see, going through the side of the stitch, pulling it through and flicking it off. Now we need to cast off 1 more stitch. Put the needle in, wrap your thread around, pull the needle out and then flick it off. Then we need to cast off this stitch. So we'll put the needle, the left hand needle, through the work, pull it through and then flick it off. And now it's asking us the pattern to knit to the end. So we knit these 2 stitches. Okay, and as you can see, that starts the tail or the shaped garter stitch edge. So now what we're going to do, we're going to turn our work. But now we're not going to knit these stitches, we're going to cast on 5 stitches. And how we do this, we knit the first stitch, pull it through as if you're knitting it, but you don't put it onto the right hand needle, you keep it on the left hand needle, because what you want to do is you want to add stitches to this side. So that's 1, that's 2. So again, as if we're going to knit the stitch, wrap the thread around, pull the needle through and pull it up, and then put the needle on the left side through the stitch on the right side. Okay, so that's 3. Now we're going to knit, cast on another 2 stitches through, put the needle through, wrap the thread around, pull the needle back and then make another stitch. So they're the 3 stitches we originally had, and now we've casted on 5 extra stitches. Now what we want to do is make another curve. So in between this shaping you'll have 3 stitches. So now what we need to do is cast off 2 stitches. So we put a needle through, pull it back, knit the stitch, needle through the side at the front, wrap your thread around, pull it through, then flick it off. And then we're going to cast off like I showed you before. So the needle on the left hand side, we'll put it through the very first stitch you knitted as if you're going to pull it over, and then you just flick it off. That's 1, that's 2 stitches, and now we're going to cast off another stitch. So that's 2 stitches, and if you see, that's what's giving you the shaping. Now what we're going to do is knit to the end of the row, 3, put your needle through, wrap your thread around, pull the needle back, then off, needle through the side, wrap your thread between the 2 needles like this, pull it through, then flick it off. Same with the end stitch, round the needle, pull it through and flick it off. Now what we're going to do, we're going to turn our work. So as you can see, if you look here, we have the shapings of the shawl starting. So we're going to do the same process. Go to knit the stitch, so put your needle in, wrap your thread around, pull the needle back, but instead of pulling this stitch, knitting it onto this stitch, we're going to get the needle and then put it through. That's 1, pull it back, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So now we've casted on another 5 stitches. Let me just pull my yarn. Okay, so you can now see the shawl, the shape of the shawl is forming, and now we're going to cast off 2 stitches. So we knit the first stitch, then knit the second stitch, Then we're going to put our needle in sideways into the front, the left hand needle, pull it over, and that's cast off one stitch. Then we're going to do the same, put the needle into the side, pull the needle round, knit it, and then we've casted off 2 stitches. Okay, this actually I would say is a very, not so much this pattern, but if you're going to be learning how to knit, I personally would try and knit with more chunkier wool, because it will knit up a lot quicker and will be a lot easier to learn. So maybe you could start off by knitting a scarf, or maybe even just practice doing, say, some little squares, or if you wanted to make a little square blanket. Okay, so that's our middle one, that's the point of the shawl, and as you can see, the shaping's beginning. Right, I'm just going to do a few more rows to show you. So now we'll do the same thing. We're going to look like we're going to knit the row, and normally you would flick that stitch off, but you're not going to do it. You're going to pull the stitch up towards you, put the needle in, and then lay the stitch onto the left hand needle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, then again 5. This is it, you can actually say that it's like increasing your stitches. So I'm just going to cast off now 2 stitches. It seems crazy, some people might think, why are you casting on stitches and then casting off stitches? But that's how you get the shape in, the shape of the shawl. And it's not a very deep shawl, but it's actually quite long. Right, so let's do this. We're going to cast off now. So we're going to knit 1, knit 2, then we're going to pull this stitch over the stitch we've just knitted. Then we're going to repeat that, pull that over, and now we've made another shaping. So I'm just going to knit to the end of the row. Whoops, let me just pull that little bit. The colour I'm actually using is called pistachio. Well, that's what we say in English, but I think the Italians say pistachio. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think it's a beautiful colour, and I am a great lover of pastel colours. The last shawl that I knitted was in a beautiful pale rose, which was a very warm colour. Okay, so now you can see where the shaping is. We've done 2 shapings there, that's our centre bit, and now we're going to do another shaping. Okay, let me just do a couple of more rows so you can obviously see how it's forming. So again, we're going to cast on 5 stitches. So like I said before, normally we would just knit that stitch, but we're not going to do that. We're going to put the needle in, pull it round, pull the stitch up, and then put your needle in through the side. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we've, oops, that one slipped off. So now we've made 5 stitches, but we're going to cast off 2. So basically what you're doing is every single row you're making 3 stitches. Okay, so now we're just going to knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, pull this first stitch, put your needle in, and then flick it over. That's 1, and that's 2. So we've just casted off 2 stitches again. So let me just pull this out. Let me just knit to the end of the row. Okay. Okay, do that, and then I can just show you how it's forming. It's actually a really pretty pattern, but so simple for beginners, and I think someone who hasn't done knitting before will definitely be able to see, you know, how lovely and how easy it is to do. So there's your bottom, your point of your shawl, and there's two of your shapings there. I'm going to carry on now and finish the shawl, because obviously it will take a bit of time, and I've got to continue making 3 stitches every row until I have 146 stitches on the needle, and I will join you back when I'm on the last row, and I will show you how I bind off my stitches. Hello everyone. Okay, as you can see, I progressed quite well with the shawl, and I've actually done an extra row, which doesn't really matter because, as you can see, there's still quite a bit of yarn left. So now we have 148 stitches. So I've worked every pattern row till I've come to these stitches. Now what we're going to do is secure the work, which is bind off, or you can say cast off. I like to use knit 2 together through the back of the loop, because it actually gives the cast off edge a neater finish. Okay, so we're going to start here now. As you can see, I've changed to circular needles because the stitches were quite bunched up on one of the needle, and it would be quite difficult for you to see this, but it's up to you. You can use circular needles, just to make sure they're the long ones, not the shorter ones, because they hold the stitches better. Right, okay, so we're going to start here now. Normally what you would do is you would knit in the front side of the stitch. What we're going to do is the back loop, which you can see here, we're going to go through 2 of the loops. Let me just get that in. So we're going through the back side of the work. We wrap our needle round, pull it through, and pull it onto what, as I'm looking, is the right hand needle. Now what you have to do is you need to slip this stitch back onto the left hand needle. So we're going to put the needle into the front side and just put it back onto the needle. Then we go into the back side of this stitch, then the next stitch, wrap our yarn round, pull it through, put the stitch onto this needle. Then we're going to do the same process, put the stitch back onto the left hand needle, through the back side. Let me just show you. So we're going in through the back side, and I've got 2 stitches now on the right hand needle as well as the left needle. Wrap the yarn round, pull the stitch through, flick it off, put the stitch back on the needle, put your needle through the first back loop, then the second back loop, wrap the yarn round. Okay, put the stitch back on the needle, repeat the process. Okay, we'll do that one more time. Put the stitch, so you go in through this side, back onto the left hand needle, put the right hand needle through the back of the first 2 stitches, the back of the loop, wrap the yarn round, put the stitch back on. Okay, just keep doing this process until you come to the last stitch. Okay, through the back of the 2 loops, yarn round, pull the stitch through, flick it off, back onto the left hand needle, through the back loops, wrap it round, off. Right, I'm going to continue like this until I come to the last stitch. Okay, as you can see, we're on our last 3 stitches. So I'm just going to go through the back of the 2 loops, put the work onto the right hand needle, put the stitch back, then go through the back of the loops on the last 2 stitches. Pull the loop up, just put them on there. Cut your yarn, just leave a small tail. Pull this through, and just make sure it goes over to the top of the work. Now I'm going to tie the ends in. As you can see, I'm using a plastic needle which has a slight bend at the front. This is ideal for when you're doing knit work, because sometimes if you use a darning needle it can actually fray the work. So all we're going to do now on the back of the work is just what they call sew the ends in. You just go in all different directions. Then we'll go back again, back through this part. Okay, and that will secure the thread. Cut that little bit. Okay, and then I will show you, let me just do this end as well quickly. Thread that through and do the same, just weave in and out in different directions at the back of your work. Pull that through. Okay, and all you're doing is hiding the yarn, but obviously at the same time securing your work. Okay, let me just cut that and show you the finished shawl. So that was the very beginning, the middle of your shawl, the front bit, and then all I've done is how I explained before the pattern. We cast it on 5 stitches using the thumb method, long tail and thumb method. Then we cast it on 5 stitches, turn the work, cast off 2 stitches, knit to the end, then you turn the work again, you cast on 5 stitches, then you cast on 2 stitches, and I carried on like this in pattern until I had 148 stitches. I used the knit 2 together through the back of the loop because, as you can see, it gives it a lovely loose finish and actually makes the work look very nice. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you have any questions you want to ask, just leave them in the comments.